Mrs. Fanshawe fantasized, things often got romanticized. There was, for those who like rock cake, no bowl to cook. By grave mistake, she put cement dust in the spice, and Fanshawe said, "It's very nice," and ground his teeth and coughed and sighed, and very soon thereafter died. Now, though England's a pagan land, some citizens still make a stand. While Fanshawe's faith was lapsed R.C., his wife was Christmas C of E. Yet down the years she had forgot what an R.C. was, and what funerary pomps were meat and which were poison for her suite. The representative of Rome was summoned quickly to the home to explain the Catholic rites and wrongs and ways and mays and mights. Father Ignatius, 29, not only godly but divine. Within minutes of the time he met her, she found love at first sight in a biretta. Unchecked by ultramontane guilt, her love ran wild and at full tilt. From that day forth she planned full spate to swallow up this celibate. The very night her spouse chose to knock off in, she danced with glee upon his coffin, and by his box was not a dirge she sang, but praises for the clergy. With an ardour mostly found in Latins, Mrs. F turned up at Mass and Matins, and from the second row of pews tried to communicate her views, rattling her rosary in her best clothes and hosiery. With sad, unconsummated sighs, Mrs. F unfrocked him with her eyes. Fantasies began to grow. She hoped she'd die, she loved him so. What a man, so strong and chaste. What a chest, oh, what a waist. If he could only leave his pedestal and clasp her close, or even better still, inflamed with lust and satyriasis, chase her naked around the diocese. But Mrs. Fanshawe's guile and gaiety, though it might have laid the laity, sometimes coy, sometimes salacious, never did ignite Ignatius. A passion always animated blew up one Sunday when he stated, "Today I have this news to dish up, I'm leaving to become a bishop." Mrs. Fanshawe blenched, Mrs. Fanshawe paled, Mrs. Fanshawe cried, Mrs. Fanshawe wailed, "My love won't die, my love won't cease. How can he leave the diocese?" She didn't even get a kick from thinking of his bishopric. "A fallacy," she said, "that's it," and threw a most unpleasant fit. They saw her raise her head and shake it. No truth had ever seemed so naked since Adam's first defoliation. No Buddha nor other holiation could have calmed the rage that boiled up in her breast. Now she was foiled, and voicing vulgar unromanticals, she kicked him soundly in the canticles. The congregation rose in wrath to avenge this insult to the cloth. Not lacking for a precedent, to burn her at the stake they went. Hymn books and psalters soon caught fire. They threw her screaming on the pyre, and she remained, though quickly slaked, ever afterwards half-baked. Hector the dope sniffing hound used to be seen around town with inspectors and pigs. He was one of the bigs. A bark from that narc sent you down. One night they were casing a joint. On point duty Hector did point. at the small herbal fag. Then he took a sly drag, saying bow wow. Wow, wow, what's the point? Hector the dope-sniffing hound now among the butterflies and flies he flies, closing his eyes. Ladybirds and beetles passing him by. Lazy days and summer ways and skies, cornflower blue. Hector defector frolicking in the dew. Hector the dope-sniffing hound was out through the door in a bound. Now he wanders at large, shouting out, what's the charge? Afghan black or Mongolian brown? Hector the dope-sniffing hound was the most dogmatic dog in the pound. But now he's a dropout, his eyes nearly pop out, going round and around and around. Hector the dope-sniffing hound, among the butterflies and flies he flies, closing his eyes. Ladybirds and beetles passing him by. Lazy days and summer ways and skies, cornflower blue. Hector defector frolicking in the dew. His number was PCK9, but now he's smashed all the time. Under floorboards and mats, he goes chasing cats instead of unearthing cocaine. Hector the dope-sniffing hound has recently gone underground. He's the only coyote who's dropped pure peyote. Hector the dope-sniffing hound. Hector the dope-sniffing hound. Wow, 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 wow. what you feeding it with now, Terry-do. It was evening. A chill winter's wind whistled through the icy streets of that western portion of the southern metropolis known as Notting Hill Gate. Flasher Jack dragged himself across the icy pavements, humming quietly to himself that age-old song of darkness and flagellation. You know the one. Just a thong at twilight. Feeling hungry, his mind meandered back to the meals of the institution whence he had just been released, and he continued humming, "We'll meet again," and remembering one horrible piece of melon, all covered in mould, too nasty even to contemplate. "I'm shy, Harry Melon, I'm shy." Suddenly, without a word of warning, he came up against the cinema notice board advertising Father X, the swinging vicar, in Psalm Like It Hot, and that Dockland sex crime thriller, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Seeking solace, and anything else that was going, Flasher paid and entered. Ensconced in the warm and prurient darkness of the 13th row, he found himself entirely alone in the cinema, save for one beautiful, blonde, brunette or red-headed female usherette, who by some chance of fate and quirk of destiny happened to be occupying the next seat to the one into which he slunk himself. Quickly turning his collar around and disguising himself as a clergyman, Flasher opened his plastic Mac and prepared to expose to her his innermost thoughts. A lot of cock for the most part. "I'm Pastor Jenkins," he muttered hoarsely, but he was hardly past her knees before the cinema organ opened up with a crashing rendering of God Save the Queen. The lights came on and an attendant came round selling soft drinks and hamburgers. Sadly, but philosophically, Flasher rose to go. "Let us leave," he said with a parting bon mot, not with a bang, but with a whimpy. And now, let me sing you the saga of Flasher Jack and Annabelle at the Seaside in Scarborough, tinged with the vernacular. Annabelle were waiting in the shadow of the pier. You could see the see-through blouse and smell of beer. Flasher Jack came walking till he reached where she were hid, and he said ejaculate, and straight away Jack did. But that's alright in the summer night, in the season of W.P.C. I'm never uptight in Scarborough, I'm as happy as can be. And he said, "What's that you're smoking? It has a funny smell." Flasher said, "I'll tell you when I marry you, Annabelle. Just a little puff, Jack, I just want to see." "Oh, I'm not feeling myself," Jack said, "No, you're feeling me." But that's alright in the summer night, in the season of W.P.C. I'm never uptight in Scarborough, I'm as happy as can be. And they said, "Give over." Flasher said, "Give in." But I do like to see beside the B-side, babe, the A-side of your skin. let me be a gay Don Juan behind the harbour wall. If it's not true what people say, Don Juan, you're done them all. And that's alright in the summer night, in the season of would-be. I'm never uptight in Scarborough, I'm as happy as can be. Flasher said, I love it, and they said, go on. But there's something about the Jack I like that they can't put my finger on. I feel as if I'm falling, push me over the edge. Cause I can't stop it once I feel the sin end of the wedge. And that's alright in the summer night, in the season of whoopee. I'm never uptight in Scarborough, I'm as happy as can be. Constable Maclagan, been creeping up the sand, trying to do you for possession, lad, I can see it in your hand. Anything you want to know will be taken down by me. Annabelle said, underpants. Flashy said, feel free. But that's alright in the summer night, in the season of would-be. I'm never uptight in Scarborough, I'm as happy as can be. But that's alright in the summer night, in the season of would-be. I'm never uptight in Scarborough, I'm as happy as can be. They satiate to satiate a need for love. She was a breed above the average policewoman. W.P.C. Sadie's thick, big and fat and round and thick, 18 stone with a hairy lip, oh brother. Maclagan hankered after her with hankering and grief. Frequently when drunk he'd sing behind his handkerchief.
W.P.C. Sadie's thick, hit me again with your big black stick. I'll have a word with you when I find my dictionary.
The night of the policeman's ball, Maclagan met her in the hall. He said, hello, 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 hello. She turned and looked him in the face, as friendly as a can of mace, and said, are you someone that I know? Is it the gay Lothario? Is it Don Giovanni? Don't drop your balls into my court, you nasty little manny.
W.P.C. Sadie's thick, hit me again with your big black stick. I'll have a word with you when I find my dictionary.
When a bust is damned, a damn is bust, giving Sadie up for lust. Maclagan said,
it's hard to hold your own.
Sadie, Sadie, I would like to stick my finger in the dike. I'll drown of love if you leave me here alone. Drunk on an empty head, he sought the porcine porcelain, and as he groped his drunken way, they heard this sad refrain.
W.P.C. Sadie's thick, hit me again with your big black stick. I'll have a word with you when I find my dictionary.
Back in Notting Hill, the moon showed up like an anthrax pill in the sky, so high. Like everybody, Bomber Dina with delight stuffed her bra with gelignite. She's a booby trap just for tonight and noddy. Up in this sweaty ballroom things were swinging. As she cased the place she heard Maclagan singing.
W.P.C. Sadie's thick, hit me again with your big black stick. I'll have a word with you when I find my dictionary.
Behind the hall Dina unseen laid bare her bulging magazine, when suddenly Maclagan did appear. He muttered,
is this where the gents is?
Then a vision pierced his drunken senses, big and bold, beautiful and fair.
It must be Sadie, half undressed. If she was French, she'd be from Brest. I always did like Bristol's best, I love you. W.P.C. Sadie's thick, hit me again with your big black stick. I'll have a word with you when I find my dictionary.
Dina was not like other girls. She had a twin set but no pearls. She shouted, kill the pigs, and then exploded. Maclagan took off through the air, wrapped in a red-hot brassiere. He said,
I did not know the girl was loaded.
A satellite was set alight high in the London sky. As it tumbled over Notting Hill, you could hear it cry.
W.P.C. Sadie stick. You hit me again with your big black stick. I'll have a word with you when I find my dictionary.
You're not smelling as you ought. It's a wonder I've not caught typhoid, though I do avoid the streets where one meets with the brave sang Freud. The dogs who do, the dustmen who don't, and I live there, but soon I won't, 'cause I've got them Royal Borough blues. I've got them Royal Borough blues. On a little notice board, I found a notice that was short and sweet. Miss Whip would like to meet me and you with a view to activities discreet. When I rang the number given and I asked her what she did, a voice said on the third stroke it'll cost you 20 quid. I've got them Royal Borough blues. I've got them Royal Borough blues. Hermit should have bought a small parking place of sorts, but the ways of the council do amaze. I'm sorry, there's a lorry and it's filling 16 bays. When I said to the driver, can you move your little truck off, he smiled at me sweetly. I've got them Royal Borough blues. I've got them Royal Borough blues. I've got them Royal Borough blues. I took my little kitten down to the laundrette in the old Brompton Road. They said, don't put the cat in the washing machine or you'll get a sock in the puss. The other day I had a little problem. I found another taxman at my door. Hey, you know the kind of feeling this arouses. So I done what I've done many times before. I asked him very nicely if they'd like to step this way and have a cup of coffee and a bun. Then I hit him with a shovel and I stuffed him in the cupboard with the coal sacks, and I turned about and sung, oh, what shall I do with the taxman in the cupboard? Mother rubbered had the cupboard, it were bare. But I've got 31 and another one just come. They'll think it's something that I should declare. I'm not raving, I'm just saving on my income tax and waiving regulations that would quickly strip me bare. So what shall I do with the taxman in the cupboard? What shall I do with them there? The other day I went down to the post office and I said, oh no, it's really not the norm but I've got a load of bodies I want shifting. I wonder if you've got the proper form. They said we're very sorry, but we'll have to disappoint. We just can't undertake that kind of thing. I think they thought that I were balmy. They said the Salvation Army may be the people that you ought to ring. So what shall I do with the taxman in the cupboard? I've asked them, but they only sit and stare. Now I've got 32 with another turning blue since I stuck a little poker through his hair. I'm not raving, I'm just saving on my income tax and waiving regulations that would quickly strip me bare. So what shall I do with the taxman in the cupboard? What shall I do with them there? Let me guide you through the wood. I understand you understood. Do-re-mi, so far so good. Finger exercises. Have a drink until we are staggering from bar to bar. Trebles, fifths, tra-la-la. Finger exercises. If you quaver, I will breathe heavily until you leave. Play that crotch, it might relieve your finger exercises. When the score is animated, that's the time to consummate it. I'm not cut out, babe, orchestrated for finger exercises. Stiff and don't get starchy. Harry said you did last March. He said Viverbert and Vivace. Finger exercises. I woke up this evening, I was feeling blue. Wasn't all that surprising. I'm an ancient Briton who takes pride in his appearance. I indulge in every new vogue. I don't argue with the leaders of the Druids, 'cause even if they knowed that I think I have to bear a far too heavy load, when they send me to battle down by the Roman road, they don't argue, I don't argue. You don't argue with Druids. I got up and went outside, a stranger was about. It was a Roman in the gloamin', and he gave an awful shout. When I whipped off me fig leaf, and I flashed myself about, he didn't argue. I ain't got a secret weapon, it's there for all to see. And in me turquoise birthday suit, and blue from head to knee. And when a village maiden see it, they invite me up for tea. I don't argue. Now Merlin was a plumber, but he had got on quite far. An honorary druid appointed by Queen Boudicar. He was devious and shifty, like used carsy dealers are. One didn't argue with Merlin. When he heard about the Roman, he looked shifty and he hissed, "A time has come to rid our land of the imperialist." And he jumped about as if possessed. I think that he was pissed, I didn't argue. He said, "Now take this liquid, put it in their aqueduct. It's made from special mushrooms that I myself have plucked. Hey, when the Romans drink it, they'll be rightly screwed up." didn't argue. Didn't think much of his poetry, though. Well, I was going through the forest when whom should I see there but a beautiful camp follower camping in the air. And she said, "Hello, sailor, would you like to see me bear?" I didn't argue. I love animals. Being on a mission, I should have had more sense, but the sight of her proportions made me lower my defence. For I've heard with campers the excitement is intense. I didn't argue. As we lay down, a voice said, "What you doing with my wife?" And I said, "Just the usual." Then a Roman stuck a knife halfway up me fundament. I shouted, "Spare me life!" and all. He didn't argue.
He said, "You're for Londinium, where you will have to face trial by cross-section of the Roman populace. They'll be cross enough to crucify you in a marketplace, though don't argue in Londinium."
I was a manacled depressive. Then I had an idea. I said, "You must be weary, soldier. Have some British beer." And I pulled out Merlin's bottle. He said, "Oh, you are a dear." I didn't argue. He took off me handcuffs, and we sat down on the grasses, and his bird pulled out a corkscrew and 3 plastic army glasses. And I said, "Cheers," and strange how quickly one's life passes. He didn't argue. He said, "I'll drink to that, 'cause I wish I was at home, or even on the continent, where all roads lead to Rome. But till you lot join the market, I'm stuck in this battle zone." I didn't argue. Well, we were sitting there and drinking, and it wasn't very late, when suddenly the ground turned pink and began to undulate. The Roman turned to me and said, "Was it something that we ate?" I didn't argue. I couldn't argue. But suddenly I began to understand the true meaning of life and the nature of the universe. At last I understood. Well, we thank you, Druid Merlin, for your mushroom soup with weed in. 'Cause man, now I know where it's at. I'm through with tears, sweat and bleeding. Me and the Romans getting political asylum up in Sweden. They don't argue up there. Peace, brother. Sharafadak, Acapulco, Pakistani, bush and leb, Nepalese, Jamaican, Turkish grass. But the best that was sold was an ounce of Kerrygold, and I got it from a freak in Belfast.